Full disclosure, the voice you are listening to now is artificially generated, brought to you by satisphonic.com. See the link in the description for more details. What's an immediate red flag that you are in a dangerous neighborhood? The gas station cashier is behind one bulletproof glass. Try the one bulletproof glass in a hotel lobby. Shout out to the Howard Johnson next to JFK Airport. I stayed in a hotel like that outside Cleveland. Slept on top of the cupboard. Texarkana. There were no pillows on the beds. We had already driven 13 hours, so we're stuck. Roaches marching and calling cadence at daybreak. I stayed one night in a motel in New Orleans during Jazz Fest, where pillows were optional. I was drunk as hell, as you would be during Jazz Fest, and passed out on the floor. Woke up face to face with the largest roach I'd ever seen. Told the front desk and the guy shrugged, saying, "We grow them big down here." Have you ever seen one where after a certain time you can't go inside? They have a little sliding tray on the side of the building, and they sell Lucy's. What in the hell is a Lucy? Like a single cigarette. Detroit has entered the chat. I was in Detroit for a hockey tournament a few years ago. After one of our games, I was driving between the rink and the hotel and needed to fill up. First thing I noticed was that you couldn't pay at the pump. Maybe normal for that area. Not normal for someone from Toronto. Then I walk into the building and see the bulletproof glass and carousel style thing for exchanging goods and money. The worker took one look at me, as coaches we wore suits and ties, and said, "You're not from around here, are you? Do me a favor. When you get back in your car, drive to wherever you're headed and don't stop till you're there." Cops in Atlanta on foot patrol telling us that they don't let anybody hang out on the stoop of a building after midnight, even if you were just smoking a cigarette. Few minutes later, some guy walked up and told us we needed to move along, and then lifted his shirt to show the pistol in his waistband. We went inside. Got lost in Atlanta after a fish show in '99 or so. We knew we were in the bad part of town. It just had that Biowad vibe, like we were being watched. Saw a cop and flashed my lights at him. He got out, took one look at us in our tie-dyes and sandals, in our new white Corolla, and chuckled, "You're lost." He gave us directions to get to the interstate. He then told us not to stop even for stop signs or lights, and to not get off the interstate until after a certain exit. When a cop is explicitly telling you to disobey traffic laws until you get to a certain area, you know you have made mistakes to get where you are. That's how it is in certain parts of Dayton, Ohio. If you're in the west side and it's after 10, you drive through every light and stop sign. Don't stop sign. Don't stop for anything, not even a flat tire. Keep riding that meffin' rim till you're on the other side. There's places that the cops and EMT won't even go to. Dayton can be Skywari. I went to school there, and you mostly stayed on campus, because one step the wrong way, only a few streets away, and you'd end up shot. That's how it was in Camden. NJ, if you had to be there after dark or had to go pick up your car at night, roll through every light and stop sign, just making sure you're not about to get deboned, but keep moving. I worked at City Hall in Camden as a security guard, but my shift ended when it closed for the day, so I left before sundown. Wasn't a bad place to work. My co-workers were nice. One of the guys, not a security guard, who worked there would always make small talk with me and told me he liked my smile. Anyway, one day we're talking, and he mentioned he was part of a murder trial that day. What part of the trial was he? Witness? Defendant? Sommelier? I got lost once in Atlanta, before jeeps, and ended up in what was obviously a very sketchy area. Went up some random street, just get turned around, and like 4 guys immediately come out of the woodwork and stand in front of my car. I was sure I was going to get robbed. "You lost man. What you need in here?" "Yeah, I'm just turning around to get back to 75. "Can you tell me how to get there?" "Yeah, you want to turn around, go back to the light, take a left, and it'll be just like a mile on down the way." "Oh, thanks, I appreciate it. You guys have a good one." "You too," he said, then turned and yelled in the opposite direction. "Yo, y'all let this man through. He's just turning around." Like 5 or 6 more guys I didn't even know were there came up from the dead end at the end of the street and waved me on. I did a U-turn and went on about my business. I feel like I was quite lucky. Lol, Atlanta is a scary, scary town if you end up in the wrong end at the wrong time. Sounds like Vine City, the Bluffs, some of the most polite drug dealers you will ever meet. Customer service is important no matter the industry. Which part of Atl? One time around 8-9, before Beltline, come, and all the new shit on Ponce North Ava 4 area. Me and some friends just parked and were walking into the Taco Bell at Parkway and Ponce. Some cops pulled their car in front of us and said not to go in. The middle of the day, and all dudes hanging out in the streets. No women walking around. As a woman, this is one of the first things I notice, when it's like a section of town is exclusively populated by men. That's when I get for there. Conversely, you go somewhere, and women are jogging, riding bikes, and pushing strollers around a safe, usually upscale. Yay, for me, it's women and babies. Most women aren't going to willingly put their baby in danger, so if it's safe enough for moms with kids, I'm probably okay. I live in a rougher part of my city and saw a crazy guy literally chasing after this couple with their baby in a stroller from a couple streets down when I was in a parking lot. Like who chases after a family with a baby? I don't take walks by myself anymore. Who can't catch a family with a baby? A grown man riding a child's bike down the middle of the road. Debo. Rip Tommy Lister, Joel, the beautiful crazy-eyed bastard. Bonus points if it's explicitly a little girl's bike. The most scared I've ever been is when I made a wrong turn down an alleyway in Cincinnati in my fancy rental car and got mad-dogged by a grown-ass man riding a little pink bike. I was absolutely running on fumes going through Cincy, so I got off the first off-ramp I found and took a wrong turn. Luckily, there was a gas station, but I wasn't feeling too safe by myself. A sort of unhinged guy was preaching to me, so I figured just a few gallons would do me. A very large man walked over to me from his group of friends, told me to finish up quickly, and gave me directions back to the highway. He also suggested that if I got a red light near the underpass, that I shouldn't stop. The hero of the hood doesn't always wear a cloak. Chris Rock said it best. If you enter a neighborhood at noon and you see men walking around in sweatpants, lifting weights in the front yard, and using a child's bike as their mode of transportation, you are in danger. Also, Chris Rock, I don't give a fuck where you are in America. If you are on Martin Luther King Boulevard, there's some violence going down. Very true, and no one ever questions who decided to name that particular street Me, as new out-of-state college student in Savannah Guy, was told very sternly by a cop that I was trying to park my car on the wrong side of Malk and to get my ass out of there unless I wanted to return to just broken glass dude. Wasn't fucking around, and I got the fuck out of there. But women walking around at noon in sweatpants is a fancy neighborhood.
Edit! This is also from Chris Rock.
Look, there are $10 sweatpants and there are $300 sweatpants. Excuse me, those are leggings. Especially if it's a grown man on a pink girl's bike with pink streamers on the ends of the handlebars. I was 17 and visiting my cousins in Nicey for the first time. Drove through Harlem and was really confused at all the dudes in the streets on a Tuesday at noon. It was so packed it was crazy. Years ago, I went to visit some friends who lived in Nice, both transplants from elsewhere. The only apartment they could afford, even with 2 more roommates, was in Harlem. My friends and one of the 2 roommates were the only white people in their building, maybe their whole block. So I arrive, a fat white boy from the Midwest. I stood out like a sore fucking thumb. The first night there, we heard gunshots. It freaked me out, but my friends just said, nah, we're cool. The next morning, I woke up before my friends. None of them or their roommates smoked, so I went out on the stoop to have a cigarette. I ended up talking to a huge guy smoking a joint and drinking a bottle of whiskey at Seven's. Aroam. He obviously could tell I wasn't a Harlem resident. When I told him who I was visiting, all he said was, the white guys in 6th, man, they're cool. White people call the cops, but they don't say shit. Anyone in this neighborhood fucks with you. Tell them you cool with Hammock. I got you. Hamhock, wherever you are. You are one cool motherfucker. I was training a new, naive driver was coming down 95 South, near Pelham Manor Chester, and she remarked how she'd love to move to New York City and live in one of the high rises while pointing out the windshield. Projects like you're talking about the fucking peaches right now. Asking for a cab to the area, and the cabbie explains you'll have to get out while he's moving because he won't stop in that area. True story, an area of Glasgow. Edit. This happened a long time ago. Edit. This happened a long time ago, around 1979. Yes, I'm old. Called AutoZone looking for a car part. Person on the phone. We have one in stock at the Silver Spring location. Would you like me to have it shipped to the store? Me? Nah, I'll just go get it then. Sir. Are you familiar with that location at all? Me? No. Them. Do you have a friend or someone that lives in that area that could pick it up for you? Me? Oh no. Why? Them? Look, I highly recommend you do not go to that location unless you live in that neighborhood. Me? What? Am I going to get robbed or shot or something? Them? Yay, probably both, depending on how you look. Yay. What time can you have it at your store? Good old north side of Milwaukee. Kudos to the guy for looking out for you. My stepdad was in Nice in the early 80s in the Coast Guard. Him and a few buddies hopped on the subway and got off at the wrong stop. A cop on the platform of that stop told them to get back on the subway because it was under Latin King control and it would be very unsafe for a bunch of white guys from out of town. Certainly not Silver Spring, Maryland. That is a pretty well-to-do area. And how exactly do you think all those people got rich? By luring people to the local auto parts store and then robbing them. Bars on all the windows. Really high windows too, like high up on the wall. Gotta make sure vampires can't get in. San Francisco blew my mind. Every entryway was gated off floor to ceiling. All of them. In my neighborhood, someone posted on Nextdoor that they woke up to someone standing over their bed. Then 2 days later, someone else posted that a dude was walking around the street, naked, asking strangers if they wanted to touch his wee-wee. And car the faft is so common that I no longer lock my car, because it's financially smarter for me to let them have a look around than to pay for any more broken windows. I might be in a bad neighborhood. A dude was walking around the street, naked, asking strangers if they wanted to touch his wee-wee, grab his dick, and twist it the old dick twist. It's hard to push a shopping cart up a hill. If I see no women or girls on the streets after dusk who aren't accompanied by a grown man. A brand new Dodge Charger Hellcat with body damage parked in the driveway next to a 1989 Honda Accord on jackstand. As someone who flies low-level over just about all parts of Chicago, the main thing from an aerial point of view is the number of empty lots between houses. It is a prejudgment, of course, but a check cashing place, usually with a liquor store right next to it, and a Cricket Wireless next to the title Porn Place. Dave Chappelle talked about it in his Hebo special: liquor store, pawn shop, gun store. Chris Rock: if you are on milk, run. Very nice specific, but if the dealies only operate through one of those spinning windows at night and don't let people inside. Bars on windows and excessive fencing around front yards would be a no for me. Nowhere to buy groceries, just liquor stall. Candles and liquor bottles marking memorials on the sidewalk. There's a baby standing on the corner. Baby, go home. What the fuck are you doing? It's 3 o'clock in the fucking morning. I got kids to feed. The baby. Lookouts. Young kids on corners or sitting on mailboxes who watch you as you enter the neighborhood and whistle to warn others that a stranger, or worse, is approaching. Took me a while to figure it out, but now it's one of the first things I noticed. Also, a bunch of guys hanging around an oil barrel fire in the middle of the street. That means you've gone too far. I've played enough 90s beat-em-ups to know that the second one is a bad sign, though the fact that the mayor was a former pro wrestler should have clued me in that something sketchy was going on there. Look at the churches. As a general rule of thumb, the longer the church names are, the worse the neighborhood. Bonus points if the churches are tiny and only take up a storefront. Note the inverse is not necessarily true, though. St. Vincent's Roman Catholic Church is not necessarily indicative of a good neighborhood, but St. Vincent, the Holy Beloved, and his sacred apostles, Church of the Lord Jesus Christ, is a sign that you're deep in the hood. I've never seen this with a Catholic church, but the evangelical ones always have wild names like the Healing Oil from His Blessed Word or Breakthrough Fire Ministries International. I was once driving to Chicago, and it was late at night. Needed to get gas and took the first gas exit I saw. In some small city just south of Chicago, no idea where. While I was pumping gas, a police car pulled in and parked. Cop got out and looked at me. Tiny teenager who clearly wasn't from around there. He asked, "You got one of these?" and gestured to his firearm. I said, "No, sir," he replied. "Don't recommend you stick around here much longer then. We got out of there a safe." Edit. This was like 20 years ago. We were party kids on our way to a rave. I really have no idea what city it was, but it was definitely not Gary. I would remember the smell if it were Gary. Funny, happened to a friend. Somehow Uber screwed up and had to drop him off Southside. He's standing there with his suitcase at a gas station, waiting for next driver. Cop pulled up and said, "Are you nuts?" Cop waited till ride arrived. I wonder if the Uber driver was in on that. Poor roofing on houses. Roofs are expensive, and one thing I've noticed in rough, poorer neighborhoods is roofs tend to have a waviness to them. Or the good old blue tarp roof patch. No stores mini, marts. I'm serious. If these businesses cannot operate, that hood is shady as fucking hell. Only adult male pedestrians. Working payphone. Nice cars in front of shitty houses. The convenience store sells cheap socks right by the spray paint. They sell those paper flowers in glass tubes. They have those glass collectibles that are obviously crack pipes. Grown men drinking or riding bikes during daytime work hours. Guys standing on street corners with angry glares for no reason. Street lights shot out. People treating red lights like stop signs. Cars missing tires and bikes with only their frames attached to a bike lock. Besides the obvious, like boarded-up barred windows, bulletproof glass and paste lots at stores, general widespread disrepair, etc. Lots of working, aged people lingering around on the sidewalk streets, in the middle of a workday, not really going anywhere or engaging with anything. Doubly so if you notice them all glaring at you the entire time you're in the area. Doesn't necessarily mean dangerous in every case, but can indicate high unemployment or less scrupulous employment. Another one I've noticed is relatively nice new cars parked outside ruin, down homes. Two more I experienced in one place I lived during college. One, your neighbor pushily pressures you for free liquor handouts while you're moving in. They could be scoping out your possessions, gauging how readily you'll part with them. And two, you come home to find your different neighbors trying to force open your front door. Shitty neighbors exist in all kinds of neighborhoods, but if they're actively and unapologetically disregarding your property rights from the moment you move in, it's probably a rough place to live. If they have no fear of the cops actually doing anything, even if they are immediately recognized, get out of there. Look at the schools in particular. Are all the windows boarded up or barred up? Does the campus look bleak and buildings dilapidated? Also look into the school itself. What are the test scores, the graduation rates, etc.? Does it have a schoolyard, or is it mostly concrete? How a community looks upon their kids is quite often the prime indicator of how the rest of the community lives.